Hi, it's Bruce Feldman, joined this week by Oregon offensive coordinator Kenny Dillingham. Kenny, thanks for joining us today.
I appreciate it. Thank you guys for having me.
Well, it's been a pretty amazing run you guys have gone on. After the opener against Georgia, you guys have hit over 40 points every week. How have you guys been able to turn the page and transition so much from what was a rocky opener to just a juggernaut, just blowing everybody kind of away offensively like you have been?
I think just guys truly believing in what we're doing and believing in offense is more about not shooting yourselves in the foot than it is actually being great. And I say that because so many teams on offense hurt themselves more than help themselves. And offense is so fragile because, you could go from a second and three or a third and three first down to a third and 13 with one person sticking his arm outside the framework of his body. So they've really bought into the details of staying out of our own way. And we're talented. So if you're a talented team that plays smart, that stays out of your own way, right, it's going to be really hard to stop you.
Well, let's talk about one of the reasons, one of the biggest reasons, and it's one people have been buzzing about a lot. Bo Nix, people remembered him. He came to Auburn as a very high-profile recruit. They struggled, and he had a lot of ups and downs. He comes to the West Coast, and you had been at Auburn, and he has tore it up, right? This is Bo Nix 2.0. So it's almost been all the great things we had seen of Bo Nix with almost none of the other struggles, especially since you guys are rolling. How have you guys, and especially him, been able to turn up his game so much and seemingly like this is the best we've ever seen him play?
I think really he's super smart and he's competitive and he cares and everybody knows he's talented. He wasn't by accident the number one quarterback in the country. So I think for him, it was letting him take a lot of ownership and, letting him understand why we're calling every play, letting him understand what the hack counts are in the run fits, letting him understand the pass protections, who's blocking who and why, and then saying, okay, Bo, you're smart. If you don't like what we have, if you want to change it, take ownership. This is your show. This isn't my show. I'm in the box eating hot dogs, right? He's on the field making plays. And that's what I tell him is if I call something and you're about to take the snap and you're not comfortable, right? That's not a good play. I don't care if it looked good on the whiteboard. If you're not comfortable, change it. And I think he's really bought into the mental side of preparation to where when he's out there, if he doesn't like something, if he feels like something he's just not comfortable with it, he has a set of things that he's really comfortable with going into a game that, hey, get it to this play. We feel really good about this play versus everything. If you're not comfortable, get to it and play the game with a lot of confidence. And I think he's doing that right now. He's playing the game with confidence. He's making decisions quickly. He's saying, hey, is A there, B there, check down. Is A there, B there, check down. We've had 1,400 yards passed within 10 yards of the line of scrimmage this year. 1,400 yards, right? And that's a testament to him saying the shot's not there. Let me check it down. And not everybody's going to do that. Not everybody's going to be that patient. And that's what makes great quarterbacks.
So, just in terms of that intelligence, this is a coach's kid. His dad, Patrick, was a terrific quarterback at Auburn. Then he was a college offense coordinator and really successful high school coach. I'm interested, like, there's all that was there. How much has been, I know it's hard for you to necessarily pat yourself on the back here, but in a nurturing environment, but also how much did you know about maybe why he had struggled before, and how do you either take the guardrails off him, or like how do you balance that in terms of like, okay, what do we do to get the best out of him without maybe making it overburdening?
Yeah, I think for him is, like I said, he is the most competitive person you'll ever be around. And he's a perfectionist. He wants everything to be perfect all the time. Right. So you say, okay, we got this guy who wants to score a touchdown every play because he thinks in his mind, if we get into the perfect play, we should score every time, right? It's the perfect play. And then, right, he's a perfectionist. So he wants to try to make that play perfect and then teach that person, like, it's okay to be at 2nd and 10. That's not a bad thing. That football is not about how many great plays you make. It's more about how many horrible plays you make. Going back to getting in your own way. You're already a great player. So I think for him, it was really channeling that whole I'm a perfectionist. Everything should work. If you call something, it should be completed every time. If you call post climb, I should throw the post or the climb every time. And then really buying into that, you know what? No, it's not there. There's the flat route. It's 2nd and 7. and we're about to get to 3rd and 3, which is high percentage. First down, let's throw the shot again. He's really, really bought in to just that philosophy and that belief in not everything has to be perfect and to play comfortable back there and to take what the defense gives you. And I think at times in his career, he tried to make that play all the time. He was the star. He was the hero. I have to make the big time play. And he's really bought into the big time play is the easy play.
How different is he from, the opener? Obviously, he'd played against Georgia before. He knows those caliber athletes. And it was, it was a long day, obviously, for Oregon, not just for him. How much different is how he playing, maybe what you guys are doing with him from week one to where you guys are now?
Yeah, I mean, he had 2 plays in that game that if you take those 2 plays away, he played a really good football game. So that kind of goes back to kind of what we've been preaching is it's the play. If you hit Sports Center for your worst play, it's going to be a bad game. Don't be on Sports Center for the worst play of the game, right? You want to be on Sports Center for good things. You're on it for the bad play. It's gonna probably not gonna win the football game, and that's kind of what he kind of has bought into, and that's really been the growth. Is he's made good decisions with the football. So I say, where's the growth from? It's just that patience. I'd say the growth is in the growth was in the patience, not having to make those explosive plays. Both of his interceptions were on shots, in that game. And now you look at him and shots aren't there. He's throwing checkdowns. And I know that sounds boring, doesn't sound nearly as exciting as you wish it was. Like there's some magical potion that he's doing. No, I think he's just matured and he's understood, man, I don't need to force things anymore. I'm just going to take what the defense gives us. I don't have to play superstar. I'm already really talented. There's a reason I was a 5-star #1 quarterback in the country because I've got the ability, right? Let the game come to me naturally. And that's really what he's doing.
So I think it's a really interesting dynamic where obviously you have a first time head coach in Dan Lanning, and you got a lot of different parts from, people know about a bunch of your different staff, but seeing the O-line, what they have been able to do. Adrian Clem comes back to college football. People remember him. He was at UCLA, then he was with the Steelers. You guys obviously are working together extremely well because just to basically go as long as you have with 1 sack allowed. And from my understanding, I think Jeff Schwartz, the former, Oregon offensive lineman, said, well, that was kind of a free rusher. It really wasn't even on the O-line kind of deal. It's pretty amazing what this group, not to take anything away from Bo, but just what all of it's going on in concert. And I'm curious, as new to this staff as you all are, I won't say how rare, but is it that everybody was able to kind of come together as quickly as you guys seem to have done to make this thing just sing?
Yeah, I think it's just a testament to the staff we could put together. I mean, regarding Coach Clem, we've been talking for 4 or 5 years about, man, if we ever get the opportunity to work together, hopefully we get that opportunity. Hopefully we get that opportunity. And then when it came about, it was just perfect. And with the entire staff, one thing I'm a firm believer is I'm not the smartest dude in the room. If I'm the smartest dude in the room, there's a problem. So we really tried to challenge ourselves with hiring people that not necessarily I've worked with, people that Coach Lanning hasn't worked with, but the smartest people, the smartest football coaches we could find. And when we put the system together, it wasn't everything I've done in the past. It wasn't just copy paste. It was no, we're gonna mix a bunch of things from a bunch of people. We're gonna mix some pass pro stuff from the Pittsburgh Steelers with Clem, with some passing game stuff with Junior Adams, with some other passing game stuff from Western Kentucky with Coach Locke, with Drew Maringer's experience with being a coordinator. And we're going to mix this all together within the umbrella of how I believe an offense should work. And so I think how we all came together is this is everybody's. This isn't just mine that I said, do this, do that. Everybody came together. We worked together. We built something together. And because we all built it together, we all have a little more ownership of it. It's one thing if something doesn't work and it's 100% my idea. It's another thing when something doesn't work, right? And it's all of our ideas. So I think that's really what's brought us together is we've all just kind of put our own ideas together to try to build something that we feel like is pretty good.
Dan Lanning, first time head coach, obviously, roots, in Memphis, but also certainly roots with Alabama, with Georgia, lots of success. When did you guys first start to build the relationship and maybe see at some point, hey, I may be this guy's OC if he gets to be a head coach one day?
Well, first started, I was a high school coach in Arizona for 7 years. And my last year there, I was the coordinator at high school, and Coach Lanning was at Arizona State. And I would go down and study at Arizona State and study at Arizona State from Mike Norvell and try to learn some football. And Dan was always up there. And everybody used to always say, anytime there was a problem, Coach Lanning would fix it. It was like, I'm just a fly on the wall. And it was like, hey, who's got this in 3 weeks? Boom, he's got a buzz. What's the auto adjustment to this? Coach Lanning. He's the guy who's everybody's answering the questions like Coach Lanning, Coach Lanning, Coach Lanning. I'm like, dang, who's this smart young dude over here that everybody keeps asking, all the full-time guys ask questions to? And so we met each other there and kind of built a relationship of, man, this dude's smart. Like this dude's going somewhere. And then we linked up after I went to Arizona State, got on, then moved to Memphis with Coach Norvell. And then myself and Dan linked back together. And ever since then, that's the guy that we talk ball together. I'd go in there, what do you think of this? And he'd respond, well, I think I would do this. And we just played who has the pen last. The game that nobody can win because whoever has the pen last on the whiteboard wins. But we would play that all the time. And when he went to Georgia and I went to Auburn, we kind of couldn't talk ball there for a little bit. But then when we got back into different conferences, anytime he said, hey, I got a guy doing this, he would call me on a Sunday and we would talk. And I'd be like, well, if you do this to him, they got a problem. And I'd call him, a team's hopping into this. What don't you want to see? He would tell me what he doesn't want to see. So we've always had this kind of mutual respect for each other that I thought he was the best in the business. And I wanted to learn what he doesn't want an offense to do to him. So that's kind of the long story short.
I know certain guys, they have their rituals of maybe they look at the 2-point plays that, in the NFL or all the touchdown tape. But what are the things, maybe your staples during the week that beyond the opponent you're going to play that you're like, all right, here's where I look for inspiration or ideas?
Yeah, we're always going to watch the explosive tape in all of college football. So we watch, all the explosive plays from everybody. I mean, we'll get some crazy teams in there that I'm like, dang, I like that, and we'll steal it. Coaching's about what you're willing to steal from other people. How the best coaches are the least stubborn. So we're always trying to steal plays from other people, and that's number one of what we do is we watch the explosive tape, and then number two is what can we do off of things that we've already done. So what have we done? What tendencies do we have? Can we break them? Tendencies people say are a bad thing, but they're only a bad thing if you don't use them against your opponent as well. So if a team wants to play to your tendencies, you got to be ready to have answers to your tendencies and use those against them. That way people stop playing to your tendencies. So those two things, self-scout, use our tendencies against the opponent, and then the obviously the explosive play tape for all of college football.
What are the most random schools, maybe off the radar schools, you guys have found something you're like, maybe you didn't put it in necessarily, but you're like, ooh, this is pretty cool stuff to kind of like.
I mean, I couldn't even tell you some of the names. I watch the explosive play tape from Division One AA, D2, and D3. So I don't know any name. I couldn't tell you any specific names, but some names now. Sometimes I'm just like, I don't know who this is, but I like this play. And what's funny is anytime I find something that I like, I always look up who the coordinator is, just because you always got to be finding out, who are the next innovative people in the profession. So I'm always Googling different names, and I have them on a list in my office. I have a list of all these guys that I thought do a really good job just by watching these tapes. I don't know off the top of my head, but that's just way to grow. Always looking to grow.
At what point, so you started coaching when you were in high school. At what point, maybe when you were 10, 15, when did you first think, most kids who love football grow up thinking they're going to be NFL players. When did you kind of make the transition mentally, think, you know what, I think someday I would love to coach?
So that's kind of an unfortunate question because when I grew up and I was always the coach on the field, and everybody used to tell me, "Oh man, you're going to make a great coach. You're going to make a great coach." Problem is, I'm 11. I'm still trying to play then, but everybody's telling me I'm going to make a great coach at 11, and coaching's in my future. And I was like, "Dang, I want to play." But when I really made that transition was when I tore my ACL going into my senior year of high school, and my head coach tried to play my senior year without my ACL. Didn't work out well. And my head coach was like, Kenny, it's time to, if you love the game, you just start coaching. And right then was when it really clicked for me. I want to be a coach. I never dreamed I wanted to be a college coach. I was coaching at my alma mater in high school. I was there. I was loving life. I thought that was going to be my future, was be there. And obviously Coach Norvell at Arizona State got an opportunity there, which is my other alma mater. and it was too good of an opportunity to pass up. And I guess everything's gone from there. But that's kind of how it all started.
What advice would you give a kid who's maybe sounds like they're in kind of similar shoes to you, where maybe everyone, they love the game, but maybe they're not going to be recruited heavily, but they want to stay connected. And they also think that they want to, it's a competitive world, that they want to get into coaching?
I'd say like learn, learn. It sounds boring, but learn the game. Like learn everything. Fall in, like be obsessed with learning the game. Be a good person. The one thing that I hope I am. I hope when people mention my name, they say, "Man, that's a good dude." Is be a good person, because that's really what matters. So I would say learn, be a good person, and then you have to network. You have to be willing to drive places. I remember when I was in high school, I would drive to Arizona State. I would drive to Arizona. I would drive to Colorado. Brian Lindgren, ironically, was the OC there at the time. I'd drive to NAU. Rich Gangrello, who's now at Kentucky, was the OC there. I'd drive to see Noel Mazzoni at UCLA. I would drive everywhere just to learn something and network. And nobody wants the person. Nobody wants you to go visit them and you tell them all the things you know. Just go learn. Be a fly on the wall. How much can you soak in? And then the last thing I would say is, which I think the most important, coach. Which don't go somewhere where you're, doing the stats. Don't go somewhere, go coach. I coached seventh graders when I started, freshman football and seventh graders, and then eighth graders, then JV, then freshmen. Coach. The best way to become a coach is to physically coach. So that would be my challenge. Is it's not about what's on your jersey. Can I become a student assistant at the biggest school possible? Great. That looks really cool to your friends. But go coach. If you love coaching, go coach wherever that is. It may not be cool. My wife danced at Arizona State while I was a freshman high school coach. She probably wasn't dating the hot kid on the block, right? She was dating a freshman high school coach while she was a dancer, right? It's not about being cool. It's about coaching ball. And that would be my challenge: is learn the game, coach ball, be a good person, and go study it and be a fly on the wall.
It's good stuff. Well, Kenny, the guy who once got in the car and drove to Boulder, Colorado, you're going back now as the offensive coordinator of the Oregon Ducks, and probably arguably the hottest offense in college football. We appreciate you taking time to join us today. Best of luck the rest of the way. It's been fun to watch what's been going on with the Ducks this season.
Thank you. I appreciate y'all having me.